Everyone. Good to see you all. Um, I am wondering before we start if anybody had a chance to use any of the things we've learned the last 2 days in anything and in their practice or in their, yeah, Meg, you used it. Can you tell me what you used and whether it was good? Did it work for you?
Well, I was doing the breathing exercises so that I could sleep, and I was laying down, so it really helped me.
All right, so we covered sleep. Good. It looks like everybody's improved sleep. That's awesome, Meg. Anybody use any of these techniques before they practiced or they had any kind of lesson or anything like that? No? Yes? Did I see a yes? Did I see a no? Okay. Well, they only work if you try them, right? So, take advantage of these practices. They really are quite effective if you actually do them. I always find that people will, after spending a week with me or several days of learning these practices, I'll say, how's it going? They go, I don't know, I haven't tried any of them. So this is not the kind of stuff that you can just think about, right? If you think about it, it's like, I read a book, but what am I doing with the information in that book? So I highly encourage you to actually try these and give them a few days. Even if you feel you don't need them, right? Even if you feel like, oh, I'm perfectly okay. I think you're going to find they'll really change the way you practice. So, all right. So,
go
ahead, Sarah.
I thought that what we started with yesterday and how we had the intention of focusing in.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, I used that.
Great.
From our morning session, and that was helpful.
That's great. That's great to hear. Okay, I'll teach you another one today. I hope you use it. We're going to talk today about something called scan and release, and we're going to do it a little bit differently today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the basic practice, and then I'm going to have you play, and then we're going to work on using the practice as you perform together or as you play individually. And then I actually would like a volunteer, someone to actually play a little bit through Zoom, and I'll take you through a couple of little exercises and see what you experience. So it'll be a little bit more hands-on today if that works out okay. All right. So this practice is about something called interoception. Everybody say that really fast. Interoception, interoception, interoception. Interoception is the ability for us to notice our insides. So, for example, how do you know you're hungry? Some of you are like, yeah, your stomach, right? Your stomach sends you a signal, goes, right? You don't think I'm hungry and then I have a stomach thing, right? Well, actually, you can. You can believe you're hungry. I know I believe I'm hungry a lot of times and I'm really just bored, right? So I'm like, I think I'm going to go snack, right? So yeah, so you can feel hunger. If I asked you, how do you know you're scared? Is there a place that you feel like your body reacts? It says, I'm scared. Anybody feel scared in any particular place in their body usually? I don't know if it's Margaret. Margaret's. Yeah. So where?
Right in this area of my stomach.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people have it right here in this area. Some people feel it a little bit lower. I'm gonna ask you another one. I want you to think of somebody you really, really love. Someone you just love. It could be a parent, a brother, sister, a pet, a teacher. And I want you to think about them for a minute. Just really, really think about them. And I want you to point to where in your body you feel the sensation of love. Some people feel it all over. Some people have no bodies. Some people feel it in their neck. Yeah. I feel it in my heart normally. Most people, when they get like a new kitty or a dog or like a pet, they don't say, oh, I love my new dog. They just say, oh, puppy, oh, kitty, right? So what I'm trying to point out to you is that our emotions are usually in our bodies, right? And our bodies and our emotions are very tied together. So anything that we label love or stress or anger or hunger is usually a signal coming from our body, an interoceptive signal that we translate. And it's really important to know about these signals because these signals can tell us whether we're going to be motivated for a practice session, whether we're angry or upset and we should really check in, whether we're holding excessive tension in our bodies, right? And so it's a really, really important to learn how to interocept your signals. This is how we learn to become responsible adults. And as musicians, we use these signals as sort of fuel for our playing, right? A lot of people are told, well, tap down on your, don't feel anything, don't feel straight. Well, you can't actually do that. Your body just does what it does. You can't help it. But you can use those signals and be aware of them to become better musicians, or just to regulate your mood so that you're not quite so tense and so built up before playing. All right, so here's what I'm going to teach you that real quick. The exercise, it's called the scan and release. It only takes a couple of minutes, but I'm going to need your hands, and I'm going to need you to move your hands up and down. And I'm going to show you a picture here, something that I think, Sarah, can you make me a co-host? Excellent. Okay, so let me show you here. Okay, I think. Everyone see that picture right there?
Yes.
Cool. And I call it the third principle because it's usually the third practice that I teach. And I like to call these principles, right? It's kind of little practices that we try. So this is the scan and release. And if you notice that you see a guy or a woman, it looks like a guy. Yeah, I think that's a guy. You see kind of this image of this person, and you can kind of see like that little light, right? And so, have you ever seen like somebody scan something and you see how a light just kind of passes by it and then takes the whole picture, right? Well, I want you to imagine that your hand is kind of like a scanner. And so you can use your hand to sort of scan from the top of your head all the way down to your toes, right? So just kind of move your hand up and down. Just kind of pretend that there's like a scan happening of your body. Like it's just going and you're feeling it. Imagine that you've got like this little light that's like kind of scanning your body. Cool. And what does a scanner do? It takes a picture, right? So what's really interesting is that your brain actually has this little system in it called the saliency network. And the saliency network is what we think is responsible. It includes parts like the insula and all these really interesting parts of the brain. We think that's what's responsible for sort of taking a picture of your body, right? An awareness. Right? When we say mindful awareness, what we mean is that we can actually notice our bodies and sort of take a picture, kind of go, okay, I'm not in the picture, but I can see it. I can sort of notice that this is what I'm looking at, right? So I can notice things about my body without necessarily saying, I am that picture. I am just kind of noticing, right? It's a function that we have. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to scan, but you got to tell your body what to scan for, okay? You have to tell it. So I want you really quickly to just start at the top of your head, and I want you to scan your body from the top of your head down to your tippy toes for tension. Notice if you have any tension. Okay, get all the way down to the tippy toes. Just kind of be aware. You can almost feel the light. Your brain will start tricking you into believing there's an actual light going through your body. It's kind of cool. Do it a couple times. And you breathe very deeply as you do this. All the way down to your toes, and then come back up. All right. Now I want you to point to somewhere in your body where you felt tension. Just go ahead and point. You got to point though. It really makes it, yeah. Okay. Some of you felt elbow. Great. Okay. So that your body said, beep, 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 beep. You have tension in your elbow. Beep, beep, beep. You have tension in your shoulder. Okay, good. Now put your hand wherever that tension was. Okay. We're gonna try something. I want you to just keep your hand there, and I want you to notice, just notice what that tension feels like. Don't get in this way, just kind of notice it. All right. Now, as you're noticing your tension, I want you to imagine breathing air into that part of your body, like a balloon. So go ahead and actually take a deep breath. Breathe air into that part of your body. I know you can't breathe into your elbow, so use your imagination. I want you to breathe in air into that part of your body and then release that air the same way you release tension in a balloon. Let's do it one more time. Imagine breathing air into that part of your body and then releasing it on the out breath. Cool. Now check that spot again. How many of you feel less tense than when you started? Yeah. It's interesting, right? Very interesting. I could spend the whole week teaching you about the very interesting mind-body dynamics that are involved in how we perceive pain in our bodies. It's very, very interesting from a scientific perspective. But I'll give you the short version of it. Your brain can do a couple of things that we take for granted. One is it uses its imagination to communicate with the body. So for example, if I showed you a brain and I said, you know, here's where pain happens in the brain, and here's a cord that connects, here's a nerve ending that connects to your elbow, you would not respond at all. You'd be like, oh, that looks really cool, but it would not actually stop your pain, right? But what we have found out over years of research is that if you can actually imagine things that the brain can work with, and the brain understands breathing, it understands colors, it understands images. That part of our brain is very connected to those sort of very primal senses. So when we think of something like, I'm breathing air into my elbow, right? Your brain actually on some level believes you're breathing air into your elbow, right? And if you actually say, I'm breathing air into my elbow, that is healing, that feels good, your brain actually starts shifting. We call it a top-down response. It comes from the cortical parts of your brain. It actually starts affecting the nerves in a different direction. Usually we think of pain as coming from our body and being detected, which is what you did, but you could also affect it on the way down. Now, how powerful is that? It depends on who you ask, right? But for musicians, it's very powerful because it can take tension or any other thing and reduce it about 30-40% before you start to practice, right? So in the body scan and the scan and release, what I do with my musicians when I'm conducting an orchestra is we'll stop about 20 minutes into a rehearsal, 25 minutes. I'll say, stop, put your instrument down, and I have them scan their whole bodies for tension. And then I say, breathe into that, relax. And sometimes people say, whoa, I can't believe how much elbow tension I had. I can't believe how much tension I had in my wrist. And just bringing attention to it is kind of already healing, right? But the other part that's cool is as you do that, you also learn how to bring sort of a sense of relaxation in there so you don't have an injury. So one of my proudest things is that at IU summer camps, I do the orchestra at the IU summer camps. And we have students, usually have something like 60 to 70 string players in a big orchestra. We rehearse about 6 to 7 hours a day. About 4 hours of that is orchestra, 3 hours of lessons and, and chamber music. And every year that people have come, they get injured because they're playing so much, right? Well, last year, when we started, 2 years ago, we started implementing these little body scans, right? Last year was the least amount of injuries we had ever. So people were actually going, oh, I'm noticing I'm having tension, and we give them permission to sort of relax for a second. And we had so many less injuries because people were more aware of their bodies, right? Does that make sense? And they actually played better because you can't play with tension, right? The more tension there is in your body, the harder it is to actually perform. So it's actually good for you. All right, so here's what I'd like to do. We're gonna go ahead and take our instruments, and we're gonna do a version of the scan and release, okay? Take an instrument out, and if you don't have an instrument, you can just sort of do this with us anyway. Just kind of just do a normal scan and release. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to pick, if you have music nearby, I want you to pick 4 measures of music that you can play very easily. Just something that you don't have to think too much about. Maybe a piece you already know really, really well, doesn't require a lot of effort on your part, okay? Pick something easy. I'm gonna give you a moment to get that music if you want it, or whatever you'd like to do. And what I'm gonna ask you to do is I'm going to just, without doing anything at all, I want you to play on your own 4 measures of music, okay? And then I'm gonna ask you a question at the end. You guys ready? Go ahead and play 4 measures of music, your preference, ready, and go. Okay, as you get to the end here, okay, good. Quick scan of your body. You could either use your hand, or you can just kind of notice anywhere that there's tension. Put your hand on that part of the body. wherever you felt tension. And I want you to breathe in air into that part of the body and release it. Do that 3 times. So I'm going to pretend it was my jaw. Release. Breathe in. Release. Breathe in. Release. Okay. Now play it again. Play those same 4 measures again. On your own, whenever you're ready. Okay. How many of you thought this time sounded better than you played the first time? Right? Very, very interesting, right? Just bringing a little bit of awareness, right? Just kind of changes what's going on a little bit. Okay, cool. Check your body again. Find any little bit of tension at all. Any, it doesn't matter if it's just a slight bit of tension. Put your finger or hand on that point of tension and do 2 deep breaths into those parts of the body. Release. Do 1 more. Breathe air into it. Release. Cool. Now play it again. And this time we're going to add a little component. We're going to play it now that we've released a little tension. And I want you to focus. Pick something to focus on. You can focus on your fingertips. You can focus on the vibration of your instrument on your jaw. You can focus on the feeling in your arms. Find something to focus on as you play this simple passage. Everybody find something they're going to focus on? It has to be a physical sensation. Cool. Now go ahead and play 4 measures again. All right. How many of you thought that was even better than the first one? Yeah, some improvements. Okay, so how interesting, because all we're doing, we're not saying play more in tune, play with better technique. All we're doing is we're activating the awareness and attention aspects of our brain, which are sort of the fuel, the gas, if you will, for playing better, right? You can learn a lot of stuff, but if that attention and awareness isn't being brought into your playing as a sort of way of monitoring what we're doing, it's very difficult to actually use the tools we've learned. So I have found, in our research, we have found that when we teach musicians to practice, even when they're doing very deliberate practice, if we have one group that just practices deliberately and then gets feedback and they say, oh, okay, I was out of tune, I was doing this, and they do all of that instructional stuff, which is very important. And then we have a group that does the same thing, but also does a body scan and an attention exercise. When we have people rate the performers at the end, the people who did the body scan and attention exercises during are consistently rated as having more improvement during that time than people who just do the basic pedagogical stuff. And I find that to be pretty fascinating, right? Isn't that interesting? That just shifting our attention, right? So it's not just about your musical skills. It's about your mental and emotional skills and how you're connecting to your body as well. How many of you have ever seen Yo-Yo Ma perform or seen a video of Yo-Yo Ma? All right. If you haven't, you should, right? Yo-Yo Ma feels his entire body is connected to that instrument. It's almost like he's one giant instrument playing, right? You can see all of the emotions on his face and his eyes and his head. You can just see all of this beautiful performance. So a lot of what Yo-Yo Ma does is he connects completely with that instrument. Here at IU, one of our faculty members, Joshua Bell, is very similar. When you watch Joshua Bell play, you can see every little thing being involved in that musical playing. Now, I know that sounds weird because people will often tell you what, don't, stay relaxed, don't move your body. And I think you can do that. But the problem is if you relax unnecessarily, in other words, if you shut all of this down and it actually is being restricted, it doesn't work either, right? There's one thing to be like, I can pick up my bass and be like, that that's not going to be very helpful, right? But if I'm playing my bass and it actually sways with me and my body is sort of responding, that's a very different thing. So we find that this body scan is a really awesome way of doing this. Okay, so very simple mindfulness exercise. I wonder if anybody would be willing to just play a little bit, maybe play 4 measures or a little section, and then go through an exercise with me. Would anybody be willing to volunteer? Somebody just maybe play, and you can turn your mute button off, and we can sort of do this together. Anybody, please? I wish I were there. See, if you met me in person, you know how friendly I am, and I put people at ease, and you'd be like, "Oh, I totally play for that guy. He's all right." This won't be very much about. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
What about Kaylin? I know you've been having some shoulder pain. I'm going to call you out.
All right, Kaylin. Awesome. Thanks so much, Kaylin. Can you play just 4 measures of something for me? It could be what you played before. I'm going to actually, hold on. Let me shut off my screen here because that silly thing's still going. Hey, just play 4 measures of something for me, okay? Oh, first of all, that's one of my absolute favorite concertos. All right, so beautiful. Yeah, you made me teary-eyed just playing that little theme. I love it so much. Okay, cool. I want you to do that again. Okay, actually, right now, we've done the body scan. Can you just kind of notice where it is that you said you have shoulder tension? Are you still feeling it?
A little.
Okay, go ahead and put your hand on there. You're gonna close your eyes. Okay, and I want you to breathe into that spot a couple times. Really breathe into it like you're filling it up like a balloon, and then release. All right, beautiful. Go ahead and play it again. All right, I'm not going to say anything, but how many of you noticed changes already in that in those 2 iterations? Yeah. Okay, I have very specific things that I heard that I think were quite interesting, but I'm curious to hear what you heard changed between Kaylin's first performance and the second one. Anyone have something they heard very specifically musical that changed? Anyone want to volunteer? Laura, it looks like you seemed excited about her. What did you hear?
Time sounded really nice, but like immediately the second time through sounded much more full and open, and you didn't even really do much differently with your bow. Like you used the same amounts of bow for your notes. It just, but the whole sound changed.
I 100% agree. It opened up. It was like a flower, right? Like all of a sudden it just kind of went, oh,
yeah,
right? Yeah, that was more beautiful.
That was
crazy. I know, and I'm telling you, I do this with IU students, cynical, post 30-year-old doctoral students who take this class and they're like, it's not going to work. And then they do, and they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And I'll do this with 70 people in a class and their professors, and they will totally freak out at how effective. Now, again, you can't replace practice. It's not like you all of a sudden are going to do, I'm just going to do mindfulness and I don't ever have to practice again. But just that little bit. How many of you noticed that it was actually more nuanced? The phrasing was more nuanced. Oh yeah. So here's what's interesting. Remember when I was telling you before that because our emotions are in our bodies, right? Remember I was saying, where do you love? Where do you feel? Music is an emotional art form, right? We have to be able to connect to emotions in our body. But what that means from this perspective is it has to flow. It has to be able to connect, right? Emotions, whether you want to look at them purely scientifically, are all of this incredible electrical and physiological activity happening in your body. And it's like an electrical charge. If you hold an electric charge, right, if you hold it and compress it, it can't work. And it's going to do what? Explode, right? You've got to be able to let it flow freely. So emotion, which is what leads so much of our phrasing, right, has to be allowed to be free. And the more constricted you are, the harder it is. And the more it is just about you thinking about it rather than you embodying it or feeling it, right? So intuitively, we know this is really beautiful. Kaylin, I want you to try it one more time. And then this time, just take a quick scan. So simple. Find the spot. Might be a different spot, maybe the same one. Okay. Do it again. It's all right. You can do this many times. Eventually you teach your body. All right. And Kaylin, I want you to play it again. And this time, I want you to keep your focus gently on the sensations of your fingertips as you play. Okay? Just gently, not too much. Don't over focus, just a little bit. Okay, I want to hear the bum 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 dee, da, da, dee. I want to hear the rest of it, but that's all right. How did that feel to you, Kaylin, to do those 3 iterations? What changes did you notice in yourself, especially that last one?
I noticed like one, I have like a big problem with like holding my breath when I play, and I noticed that when I was playing, I was breathing more consciously. And I also realized that I was like, with that breath, I was taking more time to phrase and not just like speak through the whole entire passage.
Beautiful. Did feeling your fingertips do anything at all to your attention or your awareness, or was it just?
Yeah, it did a little bit.
Yeah, right. It's not much. It's almost like saying, if you've got a balloon in a closed room, like a helium balloon, it's eventually going to go to a ceiling, so it'll stop, right? But you can also kind of tie it down a little bit. Put it on a chair if it's a birthday party, so you can give it some room to move around, but you don't want it to float away too far, right? Often our attention is like a balloon in open space. It just goes, right? We have to catch it. We have to catch the balloon, right? But if we can just take that balloon and tether it a little bit when we play, and we tether it by paying attention to fingertips. Sometimes as a bassist, I just like to center my attention on the vibration of the instrument on my belly. Kind of an interesting sensation. It just keeps me grounded. It gives my mind something to case stay focused on. Okay, so hopefully you saw how effective that was, right? So in your practice today, you don't have to do a whole bunch of it. You just got to do maybe a few phrases to say, stop for a minute and go, wait a minute. Okay, can I kind of use this right now to sort of breathe some relaxation into my body, be aware of what's going on, and see what frees up. And I'd love to talk to you tomorrow about what kinds of effects this has on your musicality. Okay? And like anything else, remember, it might just be a little bit, but a little bit makes a big difference. I mean, Kaylin's performance from her first iteration to her second one was markedly different. I mean, to the point that you could see people's faces go, whoa, right? So it is quite powerful when combined with really, really good practice. Okay? All right, awesome. I'm glad to see you all this morning again. Have a great day. Have a good day of practice. And tomorrow we'll talk about extending this to before practice and working with our thoughts, which can get kind of crazy. How do we work with those crazy thoughts that we have, especially judgmental ones, all right? I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you later.
See you all.